Hi. As Paul said, my name's Natalie. I'm from Derbyshire County Council and I'm managing a project that's funded by the LGA and NHS Digital. We're looking at remote assessment. It's obviously become hugely pertinent in the last few months because of COVID-19, but the project was actually instigated a few months before COVID. So our aim was to have a kind of slow build up. Things have changed a little bit because of COVID, but we have tried to maintain the structure of the project as much as possible. Next slide, please, Paul. So why change and why now? Why did we think that this was the right time to start looking at how we assess our clients? More for less isn't a kind of age-old adage, but it's never been more true than in social care at present, as budgets are continually being slashed and we're all being asked to provide more for less, essentially. So it was looking at how can we do that. There is quite a widespread appetite, both internally and externally, for change, and we were trying as a council to move with the times a little bit. So many people now have access to technology than even, say, 10 years ago. So we were trying to do a bit of a catch up on that, really, and try and embrace sort of innovative new ways of working with people. The next four reasons all tie together in terms of better use of time, essentially. Providing aids and adaptations in a timely manner is essential to maximising a client's confidence and independence. It improves their quality of life and it reduces the amount of support that they require from families and from statutory services. We were looking at making improvements both internally to the assessment process, but also to the referral process, because it meant that the OT's time could be spent on the more complex issues and looking more at prevention and reablement, some stuff that kind of gets a lot of get missed in the backlog of a waiting list, essentially. And we spend a lot of time travelling. It's a big, widespread county, and we can waste an awful lot of time travelling to a home visit that if only we'd have just had that little bit more information, we'd have been able to prescribe without having to make that 45-minute journey there and 45-minute journey back. So all those reasons were why we thought now was a good time. Next slide, please, Paul. So what would that involve? Well, it obviously involved technology changes. Hardly any of our staff all had smartphones. They now all have a smartphone. We now have widespread use of Microsoft 365. We're using Microsoft Teams as a collaborative tool. It's available on staff mobiles, which will come in to its own when our internal staff are all out and about home visiting again. Guided use of pictures, videos, live streaming would allow people to make those quicker decisions. Next slide, please, Paul. It also inevitably you can't just change one thing, and something that we realised very early on is that you can't just throw technology at this problem. You can't kind of improve processes and waiting lists and all of that. You can't improve the service that you're providing without looking at everything that involves. So that did involve changes to improving the quality and content of the information requested, both internally for our referrals and externally, and streamline how those referrals actually come in. So, for example, we'd never asked the referrer to be able to pass on additional information. That required the person picking up that case, whether that be an OT or a community care worker. It relied on them having to then look at that and say, oh, I don't have enough information, and then reading the referrer. And actually, the referrer is probably sitting there on some really useful information that if we gave them the opportunity, then they'd be able to provide at the outset. We were wanting to make improvements to the trusted assessor, both internally and externally, to avoid duplication. You could potentially have a referrer that's already completed lots of assessment already, and if we can trust their assessment, then we're not having that repetition there. We looked at working closely with other organisations, using teams, particularly to be able to collaborate better with external agencies, and improvements to our website to allow clients to access better information. There's a lot of potential for the fact that they may not even require some kind of an assessment if we can provide them with proper information on help and signposting and all kinds of other ways of helping their own problem. Then potentially that referral wouldn't have to happen in the first place. Yeah, next slide, please.
It's on your end, I think.
Sorry, did someone just say something?
No, carry on, Nat.
Oh, right, okay, sorry. I wasn't sure if someone had asked a question. I could hear bits of noise in the background. I wasn't sure if it was just somebody's microphone switched on or what. So where are we now? We started the project in March, essentially. We're running till the middle of next year. So obviously, we're not a finished product at this point, but one of the big things that we have completed is developing a toolkit of information for the staff and clients. It's integrated into Microsoft Teams, so each of our areas has their own channel, and it has all the information that they'd require to provide clients with the right information and for their own information. So there's articles in there, there's all kinds of things. There's a huge emphasis within that toolkit of information on best practice. There's loads of information out there from organisations, from the Royal College of OT, and we felt it was really important to reflect those guidelines. So in terms of consent and storage of those clients' information. We produced a comprehensive step-by-step technical guide for staff and clients on how to use pictures, how to get pictures off their mobile onto an email, all kinds of really kind of specific, set out one step at a time. We've tried to be as kind of step by step as possible. We've got very clear kind of arrows and pictures and sort of now press this and now press that. Even for the staff, I was a bit wary initially as to how step by step to make that for staff, but that they've all said no, absolutely, like, do not presume that we know how to use technology. We've got a lot of OTs that are that little bit older and aren't used to using technology as much, so they've really appreciated that kind of setting it out really clearly for them. That's really helped to build their confidence in it. We're focusing on Teams as a medium for video calls, because as an organisation, that's the service that we buy into. But we do have a small trial running at present with 4 or 5 staff on the use of WhatsApp. The reason for that is that we've had so many people asking, can we do it on WhatsApp? WhatsApp's not an ideal platform. There's lots of potential issues, but we are trying to find a way of making that work for staff and clients. And part of that is, again, a really step-by-step guide for the staff on what not to do, really, what not to click, and those kinds of things. We've also produced clinical guides, as I was explaining earlier, that tie in with the professional guidelines from ARCOT. There's loads of articles in there. There's loads of organisations at the minute throwing all kinds of brilliant information out and checklists for video chats and hints and tips, and we put all of that in there. We've separated it all out really nicely for them, but we've put as much information in there as possible to try and build their confidence. And within Teams, we've created a form, sorry, not within Teams, within Microsoft Forms. We've asked them really nicely, and it doesn't always work, but we've asked them to complete a feedback on how they're finding it, because that's crucial to how it's working, really, and where we progress from here on the project. So that's where we are in terms of the toolkit. Next slide, please, Paul. Collaboration and engagement. Again, this was one of the key issues. Like I explained at the beginning, you can't just throw technology at it. We were constantly trying to speak to staff and explain to them where we are, trying to constantly get their input and make them feel a real part of what was happening. Also within other... Oh,
sorry.
I'll carry on, it's fine.
Just got another minute or so, Nat.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, so we basically had to collaborate with all our internal and external partners, so other departments within the council, other external agencies that we're working with, and our clients as well. Next slide, please. What else we achieved? I will just fly through this. All the staff now have smartphones. They now have Microsoft Teams. It's all supported by ICT. We've developed a new smart referral form that allows referrers to add lots more information. It's a lot more relevant to the kinds of questions that the OTs are really looking for the answers for, that hadn't been looked at for such a long time, and it's going to make such a difference to the quality of information that the OT gets in the first place. Working closely with our kind of triage areas to ensure that those kind of quick wins can happen via video call, rather than having to be passed through to our area that would invariably then home visit. Am I all right, or do you want me to?
No, that's yeah. I think we're just there's lots of questions asking if you're able to share lots of this information, kind of the toolkit and the other bits and pieces.
We are sharing it at present within the council. We haven't, as I explained, we are still fairly early on. We have shared it within our pilot areas, and we are now sharing, hopefully wider within the council. We will definitely look to sharing shortly. I'm happy to, if anybody would like to have a look at it, I'm happy to sort of talk anybody through what it all looks like. But in terms of actually sharing and sending it out into the world, we're probably a couple of months, a month or something away from that. But
yep.
Anybody feel free to drop me an email, and I will happily show you what we've done.
Great. Yeah, maybe we can have another session sometime, and if kind of people are interested.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I'd be happy to explain specifics. Sure.
Great. Thanks, Nat.
Okay. All right then.
Thank you. And there's lots of claps and thumbs up coming through.
Oh, thank you.
So you've got your virtual round of applause.
Yeah, thank you.